This is the upper room, yeah, baby.
To be honest with you,
Red Rice.
You're a better hype man than I am. That's you.
He lying. I'm not. Oh. We're not live, legend.
I know. Oh, everybody clap it up. Let's go. Welcome, y'all. Rice Junior High. This is the Upper Room podcast. My name is Larry. I'm Larry Legend, and this is the co-host right here, Zeke. Okay, and today we're going to talk to you guys about our podcast, the preparation, everything that it takes to start a podcast, and so we're going to go through all that. We actually want to do a podcast like a small sample size. We're going to have some volunteers come up, and so you can get that experience, okay? But before we do that, we're going to have Zeke. He's going to talk about the history of our podcast, talk about, how we got started and everything. Zeke?
First off, thank you all for having us again on Rice Junior High, as well as to y'all principal, Ms. Lumpkins and Ms. Marlese, for having us come here today. We once were students in the same seats as y'all. We went to Central Middle School. Myself and Larry, we grew up together from childhood to playing Little League ball. He said I was a bully when we was young because we saw always get in a fight. But we are the best of friends. His kids are like my nieces and nephews, the same way as my kids. But as far as our podcast show, we started back in 2018, 2019, and it actually was a vision that was created by the legend himself. He came to my house, wanted a meeting with myself and my wife, because he was getting ready to start a small business, and he wanted to go into streaming and doing a podcast. I mean, well, not necessarily a podcast. We weren't talking about podcasts. He just wanted to do the streaming on starting his own show. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know that he's a musician too. He not was the bongos. He know how to play the bongos, and I never knew this as a child growing up, because as he said, I was a bully, and I probably would have teased him, or we probably would have fought behind that. But anyway, he wanted to do the streaming. I wasn't too much familiar with Ustream at the time, and I told him I was more familiar with YouTube, and at that time, that's when they came out with Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter and stuff like that. Being a high school coach, I was familiar with films because I recorded all our team practices, had my own film crew, taught them how to work the cameras and stuff like that. So this was on a Monday. So I told him to give me until Wednesday, let me try to research, figure out how to do this, and I'll get back with him. Well, lo and behold, on Tuesday, another friend of ours, who's is the boss of our podcast show by the name of Cleveland West, and he goes by The King, he called me and was like, hey, your nephew's getting ready to move out the house. I want to make one of my rooms into a studio because I want to start doing my own radio station. He said, I know you're familiar with the cameras, but I like to go live too, or you can record it and end up going live. Well, friendship is everything, and born in your word is everything. So I told him on that Tuesday, I was like, look, man, Merch just came by my house, and he kind of want to do the same thing that you're doing. And I don't want to tell him yay and tell you no, or tell you no and tell him yes. I said, why don't you and Murph talk about it, and maybe we can come together and do it all together. Well, this was on that Tuesday. That Tuesday, he calls Murph. And Murph and him called me on the three-way, and they were like, hey, we both gonna do it. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? He said,
all came together magically.
Right, and so we all came together with the podcast. So in 2019, this is when we first started. We didn't launch anything. We did test runs, lighting runs, mics, trying to figure out what service we was going to. We stayed up to 2 and 3 in the morning at times. Our wives was getting upset. We was bringing our wives to each other's house so we can try to figure this thing out. Then lo and behold, in 2019, 2020, we got started.
The preparation was at least 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think that, you know, well, we just turned on the cameras and just started running our mouth. No, we had to learn how to get in front of the camera. We had to practice. We had to have camera presence. And again, like you were saying, till 4 or 5 in the morning. So, but you guys are much more technologically sound than we are. This is something that if you have a gift or anything, anybody can start a broadcast. Anybody. But it does take some work. It takes some preparation, working on your technique, you know, when you're speaking, making sure you speak clearly and stuff like that. And those are the things that we have to work on. Okay. So, that's it. Anything else you want to add on the history of how we got started?
And then from leading off to that, now we have four shows.
Yes.
We have the Upper Room. We have Listening to the Legend. We have a show with myself and Ms. Mina, that diva. She was supposed to be here today, but she had ran into something. And I was talking more about relationships. Then we have a show called Uncle Russ Round Table. He talks more of politics. And now we have a new show that we're about to end up starting. It's called Love and Marriage Our Way, which is myself, my wife, and 2 of our relatives who married. And we're going to talk about us being married and the things that we go through, the ups and downs of relationships and stuff like that. So our podcast started off just with 3 individuals up until like 4 or 5 shows now. So we branched out, we're on the mainstream, we're on YouTube, we're on all the social media outlets, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. So we evolving and here we are today.
The personalities mesh perfectly. One of the things that make our show so unique is that we have 3 distinct different personalities. We are polar opposites. I'm more conservative, he's more just outgoing, doing crazy stuff. And again, it gives the show a lot of its uniqueness, you know, a lot of style, a lot of personality. So, you know, when you put a show together, you don't want to have everybody being the same. We have different opinions, you know, sometimes we have heated debates, but it makes a good show, you know. And so if you ever want to get this started with somebody, that's one of the main things that, again, that I feel like separates us is this, our uniqueness and our personalities, okay? So you got anything else before we move on?
No, that's about it. Let's get into it.
Okay, so what I want to do now, Ms. Bowers was telling me we have a rapper in the business. Is anybody, have a rapper? Is that Superstar? Who is it? That's Superstar. Come on, Superstar. Come on up here.
Hey, let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah,
Take care of
Superstar. Okay. So, Caleb, what we're gonna do? I feel like I'm a rapper too, man.
Oh,
Yeah. I'm a freestyle king. We're gonna have a old school in it. So, look, you need a beat. You need a thing. So, what kind of beat you want? I need a beat. I'm not as good as you. Yeah, I need a beat. You wanna go? How about that June 27th? No. You want that? It don't matter to me. Like, oh man.
Let me get out y'all way, man.
You tell me what beat you want. What you want?
Now you have to watch him now because he probably playing this. Is this a freestyle or you got this memorized?
Who's that? Me?
You.
No, don't worry about me.
Okay.
Okay, don't worry about me.
You gotta be fair,
Don't worry
man.
about me. Don't worry about me. All my stuff it comes straight from the dome. All right. How about you want to go with this Still Drake? Can you do something to that?
Uh-oh. You thinking about it?
Yeah, he said that's too old school. You don't freestyle? What you do? You just write? Oh, okay. I was like, but you in no raps or anything? So, you got something? Okay.
He probably don't need no music. You need the music.
Yeah, I sure do.
Like this much.
Do you need some music? Okay, well, shoot, man. Let me get out your way, man. Because I need the music.
Uh-oh. You going to the tablet.
Hey, y'all need to start hating. Y'all need to show love to get hated on me. If they know some scrub, when they see the Bible, I give her a hug. Y'all say y'all know more about showing love. Get out that shit, boy, you not a thug. He capping, he said it, he been in the slump. The boy be talking, they bumping their guns. He capping, he said it, he bumping their guns. We hear a gunshot in that little boy, gonna run on, be in the Jew. My boy have fun.
Oh, probably gonna talk about playing a piano and an organ.
I'm gonna come a little old school, man. I'm gonna do a little old school. That poor old Billy Gonzi came down, we got the girl and brushed our teeth, and then we hit that I-10 with the long drive, and then we came to the school junior high. We call it rides. Applause. All right, that's it, man. That's it. All right. So what we're gonna do now? We want to get 4 volunteers. 4 volunteers, so we can come up here and we're going to do a sample of the podcast. One right here, one right here. Come on, right here, right here. You 2 girls in the back right there. Come on. Thank you, Caleb.
Hey, let's give him a round of applause, kid. Thank you.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go around and I'll just tell me your name right quick. We're Greg. Chace 7th grade. Avan 8. Journey 7.
Mylee 6.
Mylee 6. All right, all right, so how we start off our podcast, we usually start off what we call like a blitz. And this is like a topic that's something that's relatable. It's pretty much like something entertainment or sports, something to kind of get the audience into it. So what we want to talk about who do you think is the greatest rapper of all time? Okay? And so let me give you like 30 seconds to get your thoughts together, then we're going to pass the mic around. Okay? And then you tell us who you think is the greatest rapper of all time. And give me at least one reason. Okay? And this is what we're doing this is what we do on our podcast. It's like a talk show. Okay? All right?
But one thing, before he gives you the mic, be sure you reintroduce yourself and then tell us why. Okay?
You ready? You want to go over here? She's not ready. Anybody ready? Come on.
You want me to start it off?
Go ahead and start it off, see. Go ahead, who you think?
I don't know if a lot of you all know this entertainer, but when we was growing up, we felt ourselves the best rapper alive was Mr. Tupac Shakur. And the reason why we felt that way, because at a time when we was growing up, he talked about a lot of political things and he was very outspoken, as the legend said, how I am. So we felt like we was able to relate to him from the background that we came from. We grew up in a low poverty environment. Tupac came through the same thing. His parents was political leaders. One was incarcerated into the prison system. We had family members that was getting locked up or getting shot. Right. The time we grew up, we was coming through where we had gang violence that was real bad in our neighborhood. So we knew the only way out was through sports and through education. Tupac was a well-educated person, but the persona he came off as being a gangster wasn't really him. This guy was a poet. He went to one of the top schools in theater arts, but he just got caught up in the music, and so he tried to relate himself to that. And not only that, he won numerous awards with his music being at the top of the charts for over months, almost up into a year. So that's why we felt like Tupac Shakur was the best entertainer and rapper during our time.
And Tupac Shakur, I don't know if you guys and girls are familiar with him, but he was very educated. He went to the School of Performing Arts. He wasn't one of these rappers that was out there, dealing drugs, and he was very educated, very articulate. Okay. So anybody want to give their take on who you think? I mean, y'all want to go?
They point like you.
I heard of people like Young Thug.
Hey, yo, give us
like
go ahead.
What you got?
Go ahead, tell us about Young Boy.
Who is that? NBA Young Boy. Okay, why you think so? Why you think he's the greatest rapper? Okay, all right, good. NBA, right? Young Boy.
Did he play in the NBA?
No, I think it's M.
Oh, M.
Yeah, M is married. NBA Young Boy. What you got?
He say N. It's N.
That is NBA? Oh, really? Okay. Why they call him that? been broke and never broke again. Okay, ain't got nothing to do with basketball. All right, you got what you got? Oh, okay, same thing. Indiana boy, okay. All right, ladies. You don't know anybody? Who do you think? Okay, who's your greatest artist? Who's your best artist?
My best artist, probably.
Michael Jackson. You don't like Michael? Okay. Who you got? Dr. Cole, Dr. Dre. All right, Dr. Dre. Why you like Dr. Dre?
I just like to talk to see raps about.
Dr. Dre is old school. That's from me and Zeke's era right there. That's old school. All right, guys, very good, very good. So what we want to do now, we want to move on to, we want to do a classroom reenactment, okay? And can we get a volunteer who wants to be a classroom teacher? Anybody want to be a classroom teacher? So what we want to do, we want to give you guys the experience on what the teachers go through when, you know, we're cutting up in class, okay? So anybody want to be a classroom teacher? Anybody? We need somebody strong, somebody
y'all
class
afraid to go through what the teachers go through, right?
There you go. Good. So here's the situation. Here's the scenario. All right, so we're all going to be taking a test, okay? All right? And so what we want you to do is make sure you keep the class in line, make sure you walk around, making sure everybody's working on their tests and quiet, okay? And when things may get out of hand, we're going to see how you handle it. And that way you'll get an idea of what your teachers have to do with, okay? All right? You want to be a teacher? Oh, there we go. So now, all right, we're getting that work in right now. All right. So here we go. Tell you what, let's put the chairs. Guys, stand up. Can we get your chair? Get the chairs. Let's face this way. Okay. Give me another row right here. Yeah, we get these two right here. Okay. All right. So we're all going to be sitting down. Okay. All right, so we all taking the test right now, okay? All right, me and Zeke were students too, okay? All right, guys, make sure you're taking the test. Here we go. We're starting now. What? Say, bro, hey, the answer is G.
Hey,
Yes, ma'am.
we all talking?
No, ma'am.
He was bothering me. He was asking for the answers because he didn't study, okay? I studied for my test. Okay?
You gave an answer.
Yes, yeah, I gave that. You heard what I said, G.
He didn't give me no answer.
All right. Listen, I heard you give him the answer, which is D. Not you just saying that to him. He needs to study on his own time.
I didn't study. I ain't gonna say I didn't study either way.
Thank you. Study on your own time, do your own work.
I've been doing my wait now.
After school? Hold on. What you talking about after school? He talking about scared after school. What you talking about? What's going on?
What you want to do?
Boy.
Get a shot.
This is no You boys need to step outside for a minute.
I ain't going nowhere.
Hey, y'all keep it
I will
up.
go get the principal.
Good, man. Give it up. What I like about she's not scared. Oh my God. She's still right in between us, see?
Y'all gonna get you though.
Oh, no, I'm gonna put that kung fu on me, man. I'm gonna go off. All right, now, very good. All right, so what we want to do now, we want to move on to the more serious topic, and this little reenactment is going to lead into that. And the topic is, who do you think is responsible for classroom behavior? Is it your parents? Is it the student? Or is it the teacher? Okay? And if you students that's in the audience, you can participate in this too. If you want to chime in, give your take, give your opinion, raise your hand, and we include this too. Okay? Let's go ahead and move the chairs back where they were so the audience can see. things going, me and Zeke will start off to kind of break the ice, and that'll give you guys some time to get your thoughts together and really think about this. Right? Who is responsible? Who's ultimately responsible for the behavior in that classroom? Zeke, you want to start us off, Zeke?
Yes, in my opinion, because myself and the legend, we both work in the school system and the education system. As far as me, with my class, I'm a behavioral specialist, so I get the opportunity to being able to read students, to see what's going on, to hear what's going on, because sometimes it's not always necessarily in the school. It can be something that's going on at home or with a friend or someone that's in a relationship. But in my opinion, the behavior and the structure, it first starts, in my opinion, is with the student, with the teacher. Because when you come in my classroom, I'm the one that's in control, and I let the students know that. And it's not an ego thing or a power thing, because if you don't have rules and you don't have standards, they're gonna be violated. And that's the same thing like in life. A lot of times when you go out in the world, it's a lot of stuff that we don't agree with. Me and myself and the legend, we like to speed, but we gotta drive the speed limit because we know it's a consequence behind that. If you get pulled over, you may get a ticket. If you're going too fast, you may go to jail instead of getting the ticket. So sometimes, I think it's left up to the teacher to set the standards, the boundaries, what can be allowed in the classroom, and you have to stick to those principles. Now, on the second side of it, number two, I think it's with the student as well, because you have to be a respectable individual towards the teacher. I get all the time, I don't like this school, I don't want to be here. And what I tell the kids is sometimes the place that you are at is where you need to be. If you don't want to be at this school, I'm pretty sure you can go to another school, and 9 times out of 10, they don't. They have to be at that school, so you have to follow by the rules. Same thing like with us. We have to follow by the rules that are placed in the school. I get kids coming to the classroom all the time without their ID, and I tell them to go get ID. They get mad. And what I tell them is I have to wear my ID every day. Because if my boss see me without my ID, I can get reprimanded, I can get written up, and if I try to transfer to go to another school, that can stop me from going to another school. Now, with the, what is it, the teacher,
Yeah, it was the teacher, yeah. Which one you thought was the priority?
So I think my priority number one is the teacher, and then number two, it falls on you all as the student.
And as usual, me and Zeke, we disagree. But some of the things he did say I do agree with. But in my opinion, I feel like it's going to fall at the footsteps of the student. And then because I would say the parent, but I'm going to assume that 99% of your parents are already telling you, teaching you, raising you a certain way to be respectful. Now, if you're not respectful to your parents, you're definitely not going to be respectful to the teacher. Okay, you guys are in the 7th, 8th grade, you know how that. Regardless, you know how that. So my thing is the responsibility is going to start off with that student, assuming that your parents have done their job. Okay, they go hand in hand. And then the teacher is just going to come and reinforce that. Okay? There's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of unrealistic expectations on the teacher has to come in and almost raise the child, teach the child to be respectful and to be quiet. That's a tough job on top of trying to get you prepared for start. Okay? So that's just my opinion. I agree with some of the things Zeke say, but I think it's going to start with that student backed up with assuming that the parent has already done their job. Anybody want to have a take? Who do you think? Let's go with Miss Teacher, man.
In my opinion, I believe that it's the teacher and the student at the same time. Respect is a two-way street, and if your teacher isn't showing respect, you still need to be respectful of them, but there is a certain line that pushes over to where the point where you need to kind of say, okay, this is where I say, please stop, please, you need to stop, you need to respect me, I will respect you, because it is a two-way street. However, it's also the student, because if the student is acting right and the teacher is, then it's like, what is the whole concept? What is the thing that makes you do that thing or be disrespectful? Or what are you thinking about the consequences that come with it?
Very good. Very good.
I think she's more on my side.
Yeah, she was, but it's okay. But you know what I like about her? She justified. She had her reasons, okay? She gave her take and her opinion, and she backed it up. I can't help but respect that. Very good. What we got? What do you think? Let's start there, Zeke. Superstar.
You call him back.
Who is? The student. Why? Why do you think it's the student that's responsible? Teachers think it's a student. The student is responsible. Okay? All right, pass the mic to you, partner, right there. Who do you think is responsible? Teacher, parent, or the student? Think the student? Why? Why do you think that? You can control yourself. Okay? You've been taught better. You know better. Right? Right. Shouldn't nobody have to tell you. Very good. Very good. You should know right from wrong. Okay? You got to better monitor yourself. Have some self-control. Very good.
I think it's the student because most of the time the parents don't know what the child is doing at school, and then the teacher doesn't know what the environment is doing, and then it just assumes the child or student should know what they're doing.
Very good. Very good. Here's my second question. Students, the students that are in class, okay, why do you think that students misbehave? Do they do it just to be mean to the teacher? Are they doing it to entertain others? To be a comedian? You know, even though you know, and all y'all said good things about, yeah, you know better. Okay, you've been raised better, you should better monitor yourself. But why do we do that? Why do we disrupt class when we know? Why do you think we do that?
I think we misbehave because we don't think about the consequences that come with it, and we just end up lashing out because we're trying to control our emotions, or sometimes we just don't care, and we end up getting really angry or yelling or fighting or throwing things and stuff like that because it's just, we just don't think about controlling it, or we don't think of the consequences that come with it, or we're just really bored and we want something to happen with it in order to get in trouble.
Very good. Very good. Why do you think? The attention. Very good. And I'm glad you're honest about that. It's the attention. Okay? Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I mean, because me and Zeke can both relate to that. Again, we wasn't perfect students in class. A lot of the stuff that we did to clowning around, just because we want attention, we want to make somebody laugh. We do right and wrong. But at the end of the day, when it's disrupting the class, you got to know when to stop. The teacher already warned you a couple of times. Okay, that's enough. Somebody got to be like, hey man, chill out. That's enough. Go ahead. Say it again. Somebody get a laugh out of it. Yep.
No, because they just want something to do, or they just want somebody to laugh at them, so they don't have to do the work, or they just ignore it.
Very good. So I've heard that word, bored. Why are we bored in class? I know your teachers are giving you a lot of work. So you're not, are you bored because you don't want to do the work, you'd rather do something else, or the work is boring?
I think that we get bored because we're sitting at a desk. We do get lunchtime, and sometimes we do get to go outside, but most of the time when we're walking in the hallways, we're sitting at a desk, and it can get really draining, especially for people who have low attention span, that sometimes they can't focus and they just take a break and kind of step out, or their mind ends off zooming out and not being able to focus, and they can't hear anything, and the teacher's like, well, why didn't you have work done? And it's not their problem because they're trying to concentrate, but there's a certain part of them that can't because they're too overstimulated, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to elaborate on that. And I think sometimes it depends on the class too. Because like for myself, the reason why I act out, and it was mainly in math, Ms. Reese's class, because I wasn't good in math. So I knew if I got the attention on me by acting a fool, whether I got in trouble or not, I wouldn't be called on to do the math problem, or to explain the math problem, or explain the homework and how I got the answer. So sometimes it can be the classroom and it can be the kids' inability to be able to perform that task with the subject.
That's a good point, Zeke. You actually just trying to, no, I'm serious this time. You know, about clowning.
Right.
So you won't get called on instead of in trouble. And I think that happens a lot. Are you bored in class? Why? Okay. So what's the solution to that? What can the teachers, what can the district do, what can the school do to rectify that situation so you won't be so bored? I mean, when you want it to be a little bit more lively in class, you want to move around, you want, what are you looking for? More sleep time. I agree with that. I think we should have a nap, because I get tired, man. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm with you on that, bro. I'm with you on that.
You want a nap?
I want a nap, man. I want a lunch break, and then I want a 30-minute nap right after that. Go ahead. Same thing every day? It's just kind of routine over and over again. Okay? Same thing? Okay, it's just kind of over and over again, same deal?
I think it's boring because I finish my work really fast. I always do good on it, but when I finish it too fast, it's usually
Okay, all right. And those are good takes. I like the way that you justified your reasons and your answers. So, and again, this is what the podcast is all about. This is what our talk show is all about. We have guests that call in, they give their take, and man, they give their reasons, okay? And you pretty much do the same thing when you're with your friends, when y'all conversate, when you're talking. You know, you want to make a point, and after you make your point, bam, you're coming back with your reasons, okay? And I'm pretty sure in your ELA classes, the English teachers, they got you doing the same thing, you know? When you give your opinion and then you justify that. Why? Why did you say that? What are your reasons? This is the same thing that me and Zeke do in our podcast, okay? We're giving our take, bam, we back it up. We back it up, all right? All right, y'all give it up for these students right here. Y'all give it up. That's a good job. That's the way it happens. So what we're going to do now, we're going to, we're drawing the end of the show right now, and we're going to kind of give you our final thoughts, okay? And if anybody have any questions, you know, we'll take those questions right now. We're going to give our final thoughts and just kind of conclude the show. Zeke, any final thoughts?
Yeah, first off, thank you all for having us again. And for us with the podcast, you know, it takes a lot of work. We do a lot of research before we do our shows, because one thing Murph said when we first began it, when you get in front of the camera and you start talking about things, you got to have a back and a reason why you stating the things that you're stating. Because sometimes if a guest come on the show and they question you about it, you got to have answers for it. And the good thing about our podcast show, we have two other individuals with the legend and King Cleve. If I get caught up on something, we pick one another up. And that's the same thing like in friendship and in the classrooms. We talk about behavior. You guys have friends, when they acting up, sometimes you need to call them out on it. And it ain't necessarily calling them out in front of everybody, embarrassing them when you two get into a confrontation, but you need to call them out on the things they do. And as adults, we do the same thing right now. We hold each other accountable. And that's why we are so close-knit, and we've been this way since we was young kids.
Thank you, Zeke. My final thoughts and my message to you guys is I need you to recognize as much as you can the talents and your gifts that God has given you. Every one of you have a talent. Every one of you. And it's not just about you being able to play basketball and football and run track and volleyball. That's not it. It should stop. And I'm going to give you a quick story about myself. When I was a senior in high school, my dad bought me a video camera, and just on for Christmas that night, just off the top of my dome, just me and my brothers and sisters, we did like 7 or 8 little short movies. I directed it, did all these things. And so my parents sent it to my uncle. He was a director in Hollywood. Sent the videotape. I'm just doing it for fun. I didn't know I had that type of talent. So sent it to him. He looked at it, showed some other directors. He was going to fly me to Hollywood, okay, get me set up some type of internship. He said, man, you got the talent, you got this, you got that. You know what I said? I ain't going to California. I want to stay in G-Town and Galveston with my friends. And I missed out on the opportunity. And the point of me is telling you that story is that a lot of times we have gifts that may not be popular with our friends and our environment and our peers, but that shouldn't stop you. You shouldn't be embarrassed. Okay? I play the drums real good. This has been my child, for instance, in 7th grade. He never got to play the drums. That's not something that I was comfortable or confident to even branch out. I just want to be an athlete because all my friends are athletes. So that was my focus. But we all have other talents, and you need to express those talents. Okay? Push those talents. Okay? Work on it. Don't be ashamed of it. Some of you guys are good speakers. Some of you guys are good musicians. Some of y'all can probably sing. I know a lot of guys that can sing, but you wouldn't know because that ain't what manly, I guess, in junior high and high school. Yeah, but these people, Chris Brown, are making a whole bunch of money doing it. Okay, so my message to you is recognize your talent. Don't be ashamed of your talent. Be confident. Push that talent. And don't let nobody stop you. Don't let nobody change your mind. Okay? Zeke, you want to go ahead and close out the show for us?
Yes. First off, we want to give thanks to Ms. Lumpkin, the principal of the school, to Rice, Consolidated Independent School District for having us come out, to Ms. Marlese for having us come out, and special thanks to you guys. Oh, almost forgot. And I wanted to give some shout outs. Y'all probably know these people. Congratulations to Noah Gonzalez, I may be saying these names wrong, Alejandra Palicio, who competed in the District Lincoln debate, and Noah moving on to regionals. Congratulations to Cameron Herring, Caden Maschek, Luis Reyes, Dominique Molina, Natalia Arzip, and Lorenzo Aguilar. Congratulations to Hannah Schindler for winning Grand Champion and Reserve Grand Champion.
These are high school students.
These are high school students. So we noticed, we recognize that, and like I say, this is about research. We research the things that we're going to do, so we want to give a shout out to those individuals as well.
Okay. Any thanks that we're going to give? Any shout outs? Ms. Bowers. Thank you so much, Ms. Bowers, for having us. Okay. Our camera crew. Thank you so much for helping us out. Ms. Lumpkin. Did I pronounce her name correct? Okay, I don't know if Ms. Lumpkin is in here, but thank you so much for having us.
Mr.
Mr. Jobe.